Today I'm fortunate to be speaking with an amazing couple. It is Janette Murray-Wakelin and Alan Murray. This amazing couple have done something that no two individuals have ever done. They have run more consecutive marathons than anybody in history. They have run 366 marathons, running a marathon a day and completing the circuit all around Australia in that time. An amazing effort. What's even more amazing is the fact that both of these individuals did it in their mid-60s, and they did it whilst eating a raw vegan diet. They're going to be speaking on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. at the Conscious Living Festival, and before that at 12:15 they'll be joining Mark Donadue and Bruce Poon and also Nikki from Alkaline Superfoods talking and discussing about the future of food. So firstly, I thought I'd ask both of you, what inspired you to do this epic run?
The biggest trigger for us was probably going back 14 years when I was diagnosed with cancer and told I had 6 months to live. It's a bit of a, shocker. And at that time we only had one grandson who was only not even a year, I think. And so, it just wasn't an option the way I saw it to just go ahead and die. We had to try and do something. So started looking at all the choices that we could, that we made in life and how we could change them and possibly make a difference. And so I started on that journey, changing, what I was doing with my food intake and other things, and just trying to get 100% nutrients from the food so that it was 100% the best I could do in all choices. And Alan jumped on board and we were, going on that path together, and in doing so, not only within that 6 months it completely reversed that prognosis, but also we started to see the benefits of being on a raw vegan diet, and then started looking more into it about what other benefits come from being vegan, and obviously the health side of it is being raw, but the whole side from being vegan is it's a whole lifestyle. It's not just a diet. It's every single choice you make, it makes a difference, and it's a conscious choice. So over those 14 years, we tried to help as many people as we could by telling them what we'd experienced, and we set up a centre for optimum health, and people came and we did programs and all sorts of things. But when we moved to Australia, so 6 years ago, we decided we wanted to do something really big to really start reaching a lot of people worldwide. And I think it might have been me that came up with the idea of running around Australia. So we'd already run the length of New Zealand before, and so about 13 years previous to that we'd run the length of New Zealand, which was 50 consecutive marathons, and that was a record in itself. But we were not raw then, and we weren't totally vegan either. We were vegetarian, and so we knew the difference. We could see the difference, and we could feel the difference. So we thought, well, this is something that would be fantastic. Alan looked into the size of the country, looked on the map and said, do you realise how far this is? And
I have to say that.
Yeah.
We sat down one night with the atlas and we said to each other, look, we can never do this. It's huge. I mean, it's like 8 times further than running the length of New Zealand.
Yeah.
But anyway, by a sort of process of elimination, we decided this is what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And once we made that decision, it didn't seem quite so bad because we had a goal,
Yeah.
we came up with a plan,
That's right.
and we knew we could do it.
Yeah.
So the plan was to run a marathon every day for a year. That's 365 marathons in succession. And
that just happens to be, how far it is around Australia. So it worked out perfectly.
That's right. We figured it was going to take about a year if we ran a marathon every day.
Yeah.
Then, once we knew what we were going to do, we decided to start our training. And our training was for the whole year before, that's the year 2012, we ran also every single day. So when you look at it, we actually ran about 700 days without a day off.
Not a marathon every day in that year, though.
But in that year, we ran one long run because we were both working, we had jobs as well. So on Sunday we ran a long run into Melbourne, it's about 45 kilometres, and all the other days we ran anything from 10 to about 20 kilometres. But that just got us used to getting up every morning at sort of 4 o'clock and being out the door by 5, and that was our sort of mental training as well.
Yeah.
And it worked out very well. On the 1st of January 2013, we set off from Fed Square
In Melbourne?
and we headed out towards Berwick, which just happened to be about 43 k's from the CBD.
And it was concrete all the way?
Yeah. In fact,
First
at the
day?
end of our first day, our legs were quite sore. And we carried on past Berwick and out to the east coast, where we turned left, and then up the east coast. That was probably, looking back at it, the hardest part in the way, because we were still training.
Yeah.
Our legs were sort of a bit sore. But also it was the best as far as getting fruit. I mean, there were shops every few days.
Oh, it's fantastic.
We could get bananas and pineapples and
you could buy them right off the street, off from the farmers. It was great.
fresh, ripe, organic fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And that was our staple diet. And it wasn't until we got to the top, up at Townsville, where we turned left again, that things got a bit harder to source our food.
Yeah.
We had a lot of storage space. We had a caravan and a utility wagon and a Subaru, so we were able to load these vehicles up. But often up the north we'd be buying 10 boxes of bananas at once, 8 boxes of oranges, boxes of apples, avocados, all that sort of thing.
Just so that we could get across, because only doing a marathon a day is only taking us 42-ish K, like 45K, say, every day. And in that space of distance, you may not even have somewhere to buy something. So it's quite different too if you were driving that distance that we ran. It made it much slower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, we didn't have too many dramas except for a few extremely hot days, 44 degrees, and the road temperature was about 50 degrees. That was really, that really slowed us down, but we still were able, of course, to do our marathon every day. Just had to drink more water.
Yeah, we had crew too, so we had 2 people with us all the time. We had 2 vehicles, so they drove the vehicles ahead and, peeled our bananas ready for when we got there, and that time it had the water there, so It was helpful.
But the other dramas we had was we had some bushfires, which we were just lucky to squeeze through before they actually closed the roads.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of days of bushfires.
It was pretty scary.
And then we had, as we ran up through north of Sydney, we came into a tropical cyclone.
Yep.
Now the wind was pretty strong, but the worst thing was just the torrential rain, day after day.
Yeah.
It wasn't that cold,
Weeks
but
of rain.
everything was wet, our shoes, our clothes. Inside the caravan was really damp, to say the least.
Yeah.
And that was pretty trying. Apart from that, everything went pretty well. We had just a few close shaves with these huge road trains that you see up in the north. Mm-hmm. They all travel at 130 kilometres an hour, and actually the wind from them would actually knock us off the road a few times.
Yeah, well, as we got further around, we were losing weight, and so we got more. we got more wind or more force from the wind, I guess, and we were just getting knocked over. By the time we got to the west coast, we were having to get right off the road. Otherwise, literally, we were knocked over. So a few times we fell because of that. But otherwise...
Yeah, in fact, we had a couple of serious falls. Janette had one really, really bad fall where she just fell hard on the tar seal. She took a huge chunk out of her shoulder, her elbow and knees. But worst of all, she actually cracked a rib. And if anyone listening here has ever run with a cracked rib, but it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And it takes 3 or 4 days to heal up. But because we were on a really healthy diet, we healed as we ran.
Yeah.
In fact, every night when we went to bed, our feet would be still sore, a bit numb, perhaps swollen up a bit. But next morning, always when we woke up, we were ready to go again.
Yeah.
And we just put that down to having a very pure diet of organic fruits and vegetables.
And also to having that goal, as you said before, we set the goal, and until you actually finish and achieve the goal, you really don't know, except that if you really have that focus and a reason for doing it. And our reason was to get that message out to everybody that we possibly could for as long as we could, that anything's possible. You can achieve anything if you're making the right choices in life. And certainly, especially with the extended benefits of being raw vegan, and how that affects everything and everyone, especially all living beings, as well as the planet and climate change and everything. It's such an unsustainable industry, the agribusiness, that it just completely does not make sense at all. To continue raising animals for food. So that was the reason we kept remembering, even on the days that it was really hard, we kept saying to ourselves, it's worth it, got to keep going.
We did have a few days when we really had to force ourselves to keep going. One particularly bad day when Janette was injured from a fall, and it seemed like the end was never going to get there, the 42k mark. And we stopped for a while on the side of the road and we said, I don't know, why are we doing this now? Who's even listening? And are we making a difference? Anyway, we got back to the caravan that night, and Janette got on the internet and she put it up on the blog. I think we're going to stop. We've just had enough. We just can't go on any longer. Well, the response on the internet was just overwhelming, to say the least. We had a lady came on and she said, whatever you do, don't stop, because the whole of Romania is watching you. We thought, well, I guess we can't stop.
Well, that was when we
talking
realised.
about it now, a year and a half later. It was a very, very strong thing for people to say.
Yeah, that was when we really realised, how many people we were affecting and inspiring and motivating, and just setting a spark for people to think and perhaps even just ask the question, and to think more consciously about the choices they were making. And as we kept going, we realised more and more people from around the world were actually following what we were doing, and how it was making a difference to their lives. And they started to come in, on the social network and tell us their little stories, and in fact that helped us. It was like we were being supported by them to keep going. And since when we finished, of course we've just been inundated with people from around the world asking us to come and speak and to tell what we can and share what we can, which is what we've been doing all of last year. As well as making a documentary. So that's the big push right now, is to get the documentary out worldwide into the cinemas, so that everybody can see this real positive message and see by example what's possible. And as you said, we're both in our late 60s, so it's never too late, and people are certainly never too old or never too young to make these changes and make a difference to the world and to the way everything is happening. It really is the solution. We've come to that absolute conclusion that there's one solution that will take care of all the problems in the world, and that is go vegan.